If you've ever had a multifamily project that was almost done in design for months, this is why. The problem usually isn't effort. It's that nobody has written down what done means in a way that the whole team can actually operate from, especially when pressure shows up. In this episode, I'll give you a one-page tool called the Definition of Done Charter, plus a quick 3 non-negotiables test and a simple change ladder that prevents drift. Here's the plan. First, define what done is and why it fails. Second, the one-page charter, budget, schedule, and yield. Third, how to pick 3 non-negotiables and use a change trigger ladder so changes become decisions, not defaults. Now, the decision that we're improving is simple. Do we have a shared definition of success that survives pressure and a rule for what happens when reality changes? Because if you don't define success early, the project still moves forward, but it moves forward on assumptions. And that's how you end up redesigning, value engineering late, and wondering why the schedule keeps sliding. Here's why teams get stuck at 90%. Most teams treat done like a feeling. We like it. It looks right. We're close. But development needs done to mean we can build it on time, within the deal guardrails, and it still leases. Design is iterative by nature, but that's not the problem. The problem is iteration without governance, iteration without a shared scoreboard. When done isn't defined early, a few predictable things happen. One, you're almost done for months because the target keeps moving. 2, changes happen by default because nobody agreed on any of the triggers. 3, value engineering becomes value destruction because the team cuts what's visible, not what's smart. So without the definition of done, you don't have alignment. You have momentum. So here's the fix. The definition of done charter. This is not a guarantee. It's not a contract. It's shared agreement on what we're optimizing for, what we're protecting, and what happens when something changes. It's one page. It's meant to be referenced constantly. If it isn't visible and used, it doesn't work. Pillar 1 is budget. Budget in multifamily is not just a number. It's a set of guardrails and assumptions that drive that number. On the charter, we're going to define the hard cost guardrail, the biggest sensitivities like parking type, structure type, envelope, complexity, and the tolerance bands. Now, here's why tolerance bands matter. Teams need to know what can move without triggering a reset, so we make it explicit. Green means we're inside the band. Yellow means we quantify cost and schedule impact. And red means we stop and decide because deal assumptions are being threatened. If you skip this, the project becomes a debate. If you write it down, it becomes a decision. Pillar 2 is the schedule. Schedule isn't just something, it's not just we want it fast. It's specific milestones that protect carrying costs and revenue timing. On the charter, we're going to name the dates that matter. Your permit submittal, your permit approval target, your start construction date, your first move in, first revenue, and your stabilization. Then we set schedule triggers because what usually happens is a milestone slips and everybody hopes it's fine and then it compounds. A trigger is a simple rule, like if this milestone slips by more than X days, we run a price and schedule check. And if first move in slips beyond a threshold, we treat it like a reset level decision. Not every slip is a crisis, but every slip is owned. Pillar 3 is yield. Units, mix, efficiencies. Yield is basically revenue capacity. It's the difference between a building that performs and a building that struggles. On the charter, we're going to define that target unit count, the target mix, and an efficiency guardrail, however you want to measure that. The simplest way is to state the guardrail is in plain language. For instance, We will not trade rentable efficiency for optional amenity space without rechecking the deal. Then we set yield triggers. For example, unit count moves beyond a band. Mix changes in a way that changes the revenue model, or efficiency drops below the guardrail. These are not design tweaks. These are deal decisions. Now for the most important part, the 3 non-negotiables. Non-negotiable doesn't mean important. It means if this breaks, we pause and decide. Often, we re-underwrite. Common multifamily non-negotiables usually fall into just a few buckets, right? We've got the first move-in timing, we've got unit counter mix, we've got parking type or structural decisions. We've got hard cost caps if you have real pricing, or yield and efficiency guardrails. But the key is to pick only 3. If you have 10 non-negotiables, you've got none. What you have is noise. Here's the rule that makes this work. If a proposed change touches a non-negotiable, it cannot be handled. It has to be decided. Next is the change trigger ladder. So this is governance that prevents silent drift. Okay? So we're going to use 4 levels. Level 0 is document. No meaningful impact, log it. Level 1 is evaluate. The architect checks feasibility and second order impacts. Level 2 is price plus schedule. The estimator or schedule quantify the delta, right? So what is it that's actually changing and by what amount? And level 3 is we re-underwrite or we reset if it touches a non-negotiable or breaks our budget, schedule, yield bands. This is how you protect speed and predictability. You don't treat every comment like a redesign. You treat changes according to impact with clear triggers. Not every change deserves a redesign, but the changes that threaten the deal must be surfaced early. So now let's talk about how do we do this in one meeting. The Define Done workshop. It's 45 minutes long. 10 minutes to confirm the targets. What is the budget? What is the schedule? What is the yield? 10 minutes to pick the 3 non-negotiables and write the why underwriting cares line for each one of them. The next 15 minutes, we're going to set the trade rules. What you trade first when pressure hits. The next 10 minutes is approving the change ladder and assigning an owner. And here's who should be in the room: the owner or the developer and the decision maker. The architect's project manager or the architect. The estimator or cost consultant. And if site entitlements are sensitive, the civil lead. We always include the civil because, as you guys know, the civil engineering requirements and actually the comments and requirements for the civil engineers are spiking, and they're really causing a delay often in permitting. So having them on board and having them understand that they need to get it right and that they need to have it clear and what the jurisdiction risk is early is extremely important. If you leave that meeting with a signed 1-page charter, you just bought yourself predictability. So now let's recap. Our first multifamily video translated underwriting into design priorities. This video defines done and installs governance so priorities don't get overridden. Budget, schedule, yield, plus 3 non-negotiables and a change trigger ladder turns done into a shared scoreboard. The next episode, we'll define the minimum viable program. This is the smallest set of decisions that must be true before design options multiply, so you can stop designing the wrong building in the first place. Now, if you want the 1-page charter and the 3 non-negotiables tests, grab the download and run the 45-minute workshop before your next option review. It's one meeting that prevents months of drift.